How does one make literary art about this time in history that avoids rhetoric and facile political positioning in this era of the spectacle? How does one avoid being consumed by the simultaneous collapse of so many systems, some being eviscerated by people in positions designed to protect such systems? Deborah Poe has some idea based on her submission to the upcoming anthology Winter in America Still. I was fortunate to be one of the editors of that book, so have access to the work. Deborah is the author of several books of poetry, including Keep, Elements, and Our Parenthetical Ontology, as well as a novella in verse, Hélène. Her visual works, video poems, and handmade book objects have been exhibited throughout the United States, and she lives on stolen coastal Salish lands, specifically the ancestral homeland of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot people. Deborah, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with
Yeah,
you.
it's a delight to have you on in this way. So I'm going to go right to the poems, and I
Okay,
have them.
sounds good.
And then I'll just, pay attention to your voice and I'll pan down so that we can go to the next one. But take your time, read them as you normally would, and people will get a sense of what I just said, I hope. So let me just share the
Okay.
screen. And can you see everything okay?
Yes.
Great.
Proud Boys, black masked along Cleveland airport fence, raise swastika flags. The joke begins: a narcissist and a sensitive walk into a room. State signed act protect bigots from less than 100 trans women athletes. Funding freeze closes HIV clinics. No medicine for thousands. Come now, baby birds. Be strong and create the home for you that your grandmother and government did not. Native Americans declared not citizens, proposal to resettle Palestinians to develop Riviera of the Middle East. Is anybody unhappy? He asked the cabinet. The room applauds in response. I think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled. Lean into the learning of those who could not wait for safety secured by governance. A government aims to disappear children. In my heart and in my brain, I'm a girl. In the Texas OBGYN exodus, Vanessa miscarries alone. Is not. Is not the older man beating me senseless. Bet it feels good to beat up a woman, I say. Wear your tongue. Earn the right to keep its weight like a world off your neck. Is not a long jumper's last reach. Orange throat, this animal body. Not a baby bird screaming for you to come home. We stand at the opposite edges of the Rio Grande, separated, not severed. Newborn baby, frontier face, sick dogs alone on the ridge. Air, the smell of neglect. Not a diary, place scarf around the throat. Pull glimmer from pyrite, hang from hair. Iridescent feathers everywhere. Untitled Sixth. The word for the study of sounds and signals in animal communication sounds like Zeus semiotics. Oil companies dress themselves as mythical kingdoms, unregulated bewilderers. Niger Delta's no electricity, nightmare in a hotel room with a history of murder. 18 days without distributing non-radioactive iodine. Thyroid cancer's sonorous Ukrainian diary. He hesitates, seeing my expression. World capital of fucked lungs. The dignity of saying no. When the internet helps put down a coup, she heard, one shoved the other off the iceberg. A misunderstanding. Untitled Seventh. Violence regards my whiteness as shield. Garner, gray, brown, black tectonics. Two midnights in a jug storm beyond the Great Plains or any other container. Ice bath in front of fan. When she walked in the heat of it, she walked beyond posture. She occupied a future of tag and bone, displacement stranded, bottomless, metal bucket just hanging from trail's tree. It's as if empathy is unpatriotic, flagging the apocalypse pageantry. La gente, such a pleasing word. Bodies rise above echo chamber, and protest ignites the wrong. Desolation second. And I want to say that I don't speak fluent Arabic. I don't even speak a little bit of Arabic. So I have studied the pronunciation of the words, but my apologies if I pronounce anything incorrectly. Desolation second. Two, a Palestinian searches for Palestine on maps. Only coordinates. No town, no peak, no country. Syria, Syria, Syria. Three, the lexicology of landscape, mashad. Landscape as much as seen. Figures perform roles, mushahid, spectator, derived from the verb shahada, to be a witness of something. Spectacle as natural environment suggests there is a witness. In English, the painter's language, that distance between image and land.
And you don't have to read your bio. You know your bio very well. Um, it's just fantastic work. I mean, this lines like this, it's as if empathy is unpatriotic. And it falls in the middle of such luminous details. So it's very well just arranged. And I'm guessing that collage is a big part, obviously, of what you do. If your head thinks like that, I want some of what you're on.
Oh, Paul, you're so kind. I appreciate your reading my work in such a special way.
We read a lot of work for Winter in America still, and when someone is your friend and they deliver like that, you just want to go. I wanted to take it all. I mean, I think the book's going to be 450 or so pages, but
Yeah, it
um,
looked I looked at the list of folks and I think it's going to be a fat book.
it is going to be a fat book. So many questions. Can you take us through your process of composing poems like this?
Let me think about that. Yeah, I do feel like collage is definitely an aspect of my work. I often think about I listen to a lot of down-tempo electronica and just electronica in general, and I have for a really long time. And at some point, they started calling things mashups. And that always resonated with me because I feel like that's what I do. I read and I'm very nourished by very disparate kinds of reading. And then I'm shoving them together because there's a heart there for me or a central thread that I want to weave around in a piece. And so that's a little bit. Did you want me to say more, or is that?
As much as you'd like to say about it, because I think that, as I alluded to in my introduction, people of conscience, and if you're a poet, that suggests you're a person of conscience, although
Right.
maybe some of our experiences in the poetry community would make that so certain. But the point is, if you're alive and paying attention to what's going on now, you got to be just overwhelmed by what's happening. And how do you not, and we see many of these poems, the orange stain or Chito Benito or all these clever insults, you know. But what does that do? That just mimics what MAGA people are doing. So how do we go to a more creative space? How do we use the imagination? Because I think what Diana Prima said, the only war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed in it, is made evident by the dialogue that you get with people who are fed a steady diet of Fox News.
Yeah. Yeah. And my husband is also a writer, very different kind of writer. He's a journalist, and he's a leader in the broadband sector, and he's launched his newsletter. And the reason I bring that up is because we've had conversations about, like the like frontal assault of this time, and the inclination in writing to like frontal assault back. And that that is effective, but you have to temper it, because if you just come at all of us are already so overwhelmed that we need to initiate some kind of dialogue so that people want to engage with the piece. And that's as true for his kind of writing as it is for my kind of writing. And as somewhere along the way, teachers imparted to me that people don't want you to tell them what to think. They don't want you to tell them what to do. They don't want you to tell them what they think. They don't want to have you make the judgment or evaluation for them. We just really want to do that ourselves. And so I really try to instill that in my writing so that I present information in a way where that person has to decide what valence that particular phrase or sentence has, what it means to them, and how they evaluate and take it forward. And you can tell when I read that it's obvious that it's charged, and there's volatility in the language and so on. But when I write on the page, I do want someone to like read and take, and I'd be repeating myself, but basically to take the spirit of that and breathe it in, if you will, and then make something, whatever they need to take from it, whatever's, whether it's entertainment or helpful or thought-provoking, or, whatever people do with your work once it's in the world. And so that's a big piece. I also, when I first started studying traditional Chinese poetry, it really was quite meaningful to me, the absence of the particular absence of I in the poetics. And I feel like we have a very narcissistic culture, and that is no less underlined three times by the pretend president. But I I really feel like I try to remove myself as much as possible, because it's it's not just about me. I mean, it's about me and what I need to get on the page, but it's also what I need to get on the page to connect with you, human, about what we're experiencing and what we're witnessing, and witnessing it, period. And also, another part of that is I'm a very sensitive, emotional person, not to, jump into a stereotype of a poet, but I am a sensitive individual. I have a pretty high emotional IQ, um, or an emotional intelligence. And, and I want my work to come across in a feeling way. I don't want it just to be like hammer, 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 or barrage, 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 barrage. I want there to be a sentiment or a feeling that arises from it. And when I read, sometimes I'll even write like the feeling that I have in writing the piece or in reading the piece myself. I'll like say to myself, like, this is a blah blah one. This is a, and this is an emphatic one. This is a sad one. This is a, I'm not thinking of, any particular example right now, but my hope is that there's some kind of resonance in the receiver of that.
You're talking about rampant narcissism in this culture. I remember 20 or so years ago, I saw a bumper sticker in Port Townsend that said, "Only you can stop narcissism," which I thought was pretty cool. There were a lot of thoughts that went through my head as you were talking. First of all, that in Asian culture, you see all the, I mean, this is old Asian culture, but you see all the landscape photos and the humans in there, but he's very small and it's proportional to, human in the thing. And then you go to the European stuff, and it's all these portraits. So the human is the subject and right up in front. And I think that says what you were saying very clearly, the difference between Western and Asian culture, at least as it's been, although certainly it's changing, and certainly that's a
Yes, it
stereotype.
certainly is.
Phyllis Webb said that the best response to a poem is another poem. So, I think Olson said to be of use is a compliment, um, and to have work that's generative, I think is important. I'm not interested in work that I don't find generative. And the last thing I want to say about your response is in that, and this never really occurred to me before, but in that objectivity that you, and that's what I got from what you were saying, what you try and achieve, there is an humility in that because, the ego says, this is what I believe, this is what you need to believe, here's the way it is. And you're not doing that. So it seems to me that there's some kind of, uh, simpatico between the notion of objectivity and this and humility, which I think you can feel very clearly, and which I think is really critical in writing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm I I'm a learner. I'm that is a beautiful thing that I got from my mother is I'm very curious, I'm very open, and I endeavor to keep ego out of it and it be about like learning and sharing and connecting, not about making sure that someone understands how I feel or think about something.
Joanne Kiger, don't tell us what you think or what you feel. Tell us what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about the influences on your work that come to mind with these poems?
Oh,
Is Bernadette in there?
for sure. Well, Soam Patel is a direct influence on the untitled Sixth and Seventh. She had a poem, I think it was called Like Violence Interrupted, and it was published in one of her early chapbooks with Yo-Yo Labs. And so that was definitely a direct influence of the untitled Sixth and Seventh poems. Um, Bruce Beasley, I took a class with him in, I think it was last fall. It was an online class. And so he was an influence on me. I mean, his work, I really love his work, especially Lord Brain. That's my favorite book of his. Um, it's a fantastic book. It's just a sonic. It's it's very it's like it's just a great book because I don't have the words right now. Sonically and intellectually and so on. But anyway, he was not only an influence because, it was a prompt of an aphora around an aphora, but it was also just the context of being with him and thinking a lot about dreams. That was what the theme of the whole class. And so dreams are also an influence. That's not a person, and that's not a person influencing me. Um, I think writers like Brandon Shimoda, Etel Adnan, um, Ray Armentrout to a certain extent, Bernadette Mayer. I have influences across a range of aesthetics. And that's always how I've been, and I probably ever shall be. Um, and I have my favorites. I'm trying to think of who else. There are lots of influences. I just am not thinking of others right at the moment.
Well, that was a lot to chew on for a while,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think you answered the question. There, in the first poem that you read, it's involving trans people and the rights of trans people.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on the issue of trans rights and why this is important to you to write about and to be aware of and to, I guess, advocate for?
I won't be able to say it as I really believe that trans identity is there. It's trans sociopolitics. It is they are at the front as far as I'm concerned. They're leading the way that we should be about human beings in accepting difference, in being who you are, in embracing who you are, in um, not not embracing a normative structure. And I think there's so much hate. I mean, deaths are happening every single day, and it's horrifying. And we could talk about all the things that are happening to our trans communities. Um, it's it really breaks my heart, and at the same moment, it spins around an axis of infuriation. Um, and but it's to me. Uh, Trans rights embodies so much of what we're dealing with right now. I mean, it's connected to the way that we think about land. It's connected to the way we think about, people that are a different shade of skin than us, and so on and so on. And I think it's abundantly important that we support trans rights however we can, because it is and that is not even talking about every trans person I know is there is like some of the most emotionally intelligent people that I know. They know themselves in this really deep and meaningful way. And I know that's a generalization, but it really is true that because they've had to do that deep thinking to become what they want and deserve to become. Um, and yeah, I could go on, but that's a little bit.
We get the idea. What's your highest hope for these poems? And I mean, when they get in the world, what do you hope they do? Is that important to you?
That's a good question. I hope someone reads it and derives something from it, whether it be like a connection of, oh wow, I'm somebody's feeling like this and they're saying this is wrong. Um, or they have a feeling, or they're inspired by the aesthetic and they want to do something similar to be their own witness to their communities. And so that's the hope, and over which I have no control, of course. But yeah,
But we're public poets for a reason. We're not Emily Dickinson. Somebody asks us to read, we go and read.
yeah.
Somebody wants to publish us or interview us. I mean, if it
Say yes.
seems like a legit deal, we usually say yes. I hope mine's a legit deal.
It's true. I'm like, sure, I'll talk to you. I'll have this conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad we did.
Yeah, me
I
too.
hope people see these poems and I hope they get something out of it. And I hope when there's readings for Winter in America Still that you'll have a chance to read all of those, or perhaps new poems that are
Yeah,
related. And
maybe both.
I'm just kind of in awe of your ability to stay at a distance, to be innovative, and to have such compelling work. I mean, you go back to if you go back to the poem in the Texas OBGYN Exodus, because Texas is prosecuting women who are having miscarriages and what have
Yeah.
you. And the line, Vanessa miscarries alone. I mean, it just says so much. That's really the art of poetry, is to be able to say things in such a way that we get it. You know,
Yeah.
you don't need a little violin to let people know, okay, it's time to be said. The poem does the work, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to know you, and I'm grateful that you took time to.
Well, thank you, Paul. I mean, you say so many nice things that anytime you want to, have an interview and tell me nice things, I'm there.
Let me know when the next book comes out.
I will do.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you so much.
Deborah Poe's been our guest, and if you'd like to see more of her work, she has a website at, would you believe, deborahpoe.com. That's DeborahPoe.com.